Trial Tuesday, once again, as we mentioned, it is National Safe Boating Week, and boating under the influence is a serious crime here in the Low Country. Our Admiral of Acquittals, the captain himself, Attorney David Saylor, call him Saylor for this segment, joins us right now with much more. Counselor, you're an avid boater yourself, but you got to be safe out on the waterways. A lot of accidents happen under the influence of alcohol here in Palmetto State.
Absolutely, and particularly around a weekend that we have coming up, obviously here being Memorial Day weekend. It's sort of known as the first weekend where you really start to see a whole lot of action on the water with the temperatures rising and all that. And so you have to be very careful, because not only do you have people out there that are on their boats driving under the influence, you have people that are also acting recklessly or just not paying attention at all.
There's a lot of new boaters, especially this weekend with the big weekend coming up and those temperatures rising, as you said. A lot of inexperienced boaters, and that's where more experienced boaters, you kind of have to take a pass and say, you know what, I'm going to let this person make their mistake, but I'm going to let them do it way over that way.
Right, yeah, and that's the issue really at hand, is just making sure you're paying attention to all that's around you. You may be doing everything correct yourself, but two boats come in two different directions, not knowing how to pass, that sort of thing. And then you get into the alcohol or drug side of things and it can really get dangerous.
Well, tell me how a DUI versus a boating under the influence law is similar, and the differences between those.
Well, the similarity is going to be obviously that it is a criminal charge. Boating under the influence is not something they just write you a ticket for it and leave. You can get arrested, you go to jail. You can be arrested by the Department of Natural Resources, DNR, which is on the water. Also, of course, local police agencies, North Charleston, have boating forces out there on the water. You also have to take a field sobriety test, or you're allowed to take a field sobriety test, and then they go by those same standard measures, and then ultimately you can be convicted and then be suspended from boating. So it's a very serious charge. Obviously, there's a lot of tragedies that happen on the water, some related to alcohol, some just recklessness, so you got to be careful along the way and make sure you have someone on the boat that knows what they're doing, knows all the safety precautions that have to be taken before you go out.
Is it still that 0.08 threshold for boating under the influence?
Yeah, correct. I mean, basically, you're going to be looking at the same standards that you're looking at while driving under the influence, and so there'll be a number of things that will occur within the process, very similar to a driving under the influence.
DNR definitely going to be out there, and they tell me about legally. They are allowed to board your boat and do one of those safety searches, as well as a sobriety check as well.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something that people are not familiar with. Different than a car or anything like that search, you have to have a number of different items on your boat, and obviously if you don't, including life jackets, whistles, that sort of thing, they will cite you for that. So you have to be careful to make sure before you go out that you have everything you need, because even that one extra life jacket, is going to be a pretty hefty fine if you're missing it.
You need to have one life jacket per person on the boat at any given time. So DNR, one of those police agencies, if you're on the water, they can search your boat at any time?
Yeah, they stop and do checks fairly constantly. Not that you're even doing something wrong. They just stop and do basically a check, make sure that you have everything, and then, move on. However, if there's illegal substances on the boat, or again, you're not following along with the checklist of items you have to have, you can be cited and potentially arrested.
And they'll take you to jail. They'll put you out of your boat and into their boat and leave your boat sitting there.
And tow your boat and take you right to jail. Exactly. So you have to be very careful. There's nothing wrong with having a good time out on the water, but it's no different than trying to come from a concert or an event. You got to make sure you have somebody that's sober driving the boat, because it's even more dangerous in a lot of instances in cars.
Absolutely. Well, talk about the open container law a little bit on a boat, because if you're staying sober, but a couple of people you're with have an open container of beer, and then the cops see you, is that kind of the same thing as being in a car coming home from a concert?
That is not. There's obviously going to be people that are drinking alcohol on a boat. There's no glass allowed on a course on a boat, but if people were to have something in a cup or in a can, not the driver, obviously. If the driver's drinking alcohol, then you're going to look at whether or not that driver, of course, is under the influence. So clearly you need to stay away from any type of activity like that. However, there are passengers on the boat that are drinking alcohol. That's not going to be something you're going to have a problem with in a boat, which is different than the car.
When in doubt, you probably just should stay sober and make sure you enjoy the waterways and get back safely. Of course, a whole bunch of resources right here in the Low Country to make sure you go and get those boat safety checks, so you have everything that you need for a safe afternoon on the water.
You can find it online too, so that would also help a lot of people.
Fantastic tips right there. Thank you for your time, sir. Really do appreciate it.
Thanks
as always.
for having me.
More after the break. Make sure you stay with us on Low Country Live.